How we doing, guys? Now, you guys will know if Gov's not here, we usually go live. It's kind of our renegade kind of pushback against, Gov. He likes the old countdown. He likes to be all set up. Me and Donnie just like to deliver. And this week is a bit of content people, because there's that week in between. And a lot of times in the olden days, before Donnie was even born, they would need that week to transition, media. They would fly. There would be a lot of different transitional kind of things. There would be the argument of rest. I don't really see the point in it now. I think they just keep it around for history. But what that does is basically gives a week where no one knows what to do for content when you build so much of your content around showdown lineups and drafting and lineup builders. But recently we got a few comments in our comment section asking us about NBA, and we did that best ball draft, and I told the people, like, the way our work schedule goes and trying to get three guys together on a weekly basis is sometimes difficult to do like an NBA live show. I thought about almost doing a kind of NBA like roundtable discussion where it's like, if we're available, we'll come on, a half an hour before the show starts, and then we'll give you our NBA takes, because we really do love the NBA. So what I kind of wanted to turn this show into is just to kind of give you more color of our sports fandom. We'll talk a little NBA, we'll talk a little NFL. I do have some advice for you guys. Mainly, I'll get that off the top, and we'll kick it over to Donnie. If you did want to bet the Super Bowl, and this is just recreational advice, of course, not financial, but my advice would be, if you like an over, whether that be a player prop, a scoring total, any overs that you want to take for that game, do that now. Take the unders light, because once the casual money comes in, all the casuals basically want to bet the overs. So once the kind of game, the week of the game, that's when you want to hit your unders. Saquon Barkley's already close to 100 yards, for example. So if you really think he's going to have a bad game, the Kansas City defense shows up, which Donnie's been on all season. If you think they're going to show up and their run defense will be immaculate, that's how you would take advantage. But you would most likely do that the week of the game. It is kind of weird, though, Donnie. I think a lot of people, because of the modern era, I talked about it off the top of the show a bit, people just don't know what to do with this week, so they lay a lot of money. So things do move.
Well, I just find it funny, looking into the Super Bowl. Obviously, we've had a little time to think about it now. And we've done this song and dance before. Kansas City's not as good as it used to be. It's playing a team it's already played in the Super Bowl. But now they added a superstar running back who's basically the best running back in the league for the season. And we all know it's just going to end the same way.
I don't mind it.
I don't either. But let's stop convincing ourselves that Kansas City's going to find a way to lose.
Well, speaking of things that we want to have happen, or theories or conspiracies, I just want to get this off the top. This is easy. If you really think the NFL is rigged, whether I'm right, Donnie's right, you're right, whatever you want to believe about the NFL script or conspiracies, you can bet it. Guess what? We live in the 21st century. You can bet it. If you really think the NFL is rigged to the Chiefs, then you should play whatever you want. And the moment you say that, it kind of kills the argument, because I'm not saying it isn't rigged. I'm saying that they're either very elusive of what they rig or how they rig it, or it's not as obvious as people think.
It's not rigged. It just favors certain guys in some moments, like the star quarterbacks. That's all superstar quarterbacks, not just Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
It's clearly favoritism in some regards.
Do they favor matchups when it comes to ratings and who they're going to put on Sunday?
That you can't prove. I mean, you can't prove that. But you can prove the favoritism towards players.
But I mean, they know, for example, the Dallas Cowboys do good in ratings for Monday Night Football. The Cowboys will always have a mainstay on, a Monday Night Football platform. These things are true, but there's a difference between saying, oh, yeah, the NFL has a favorite outcome because they can make the most money in this market, versus it's rigged. I've heard everything. This year, for example, the Rams were going to win the Super Bowl, Donnie, because they had the fire. So that's, of course, what the NFL wants. They want to prop up like this Cinderella story. And then the moment that narrative goes away, it's like we sweep that under the rug. So the truth is, no matter what happens in the Chiefs game, people are going to be upset, and there's going to be people that have a video evidence of something. Whether that be, oh, look at Taylor Swift, she's mad at, Travis Kelce didn't catch that pass, or, hey, look, this is a 4th down conversion that didn't happen. Like, no matter what narrative you want, you can find it.
Well, I just think it's funny that it was all rigged for the Patriots before, it's all rigged for the Chiefs now. What about the teams that also won the other conference? That would mean that's also rigged, and if that's your favorite team, then your team doesn't belong there either. The rabbit hole goes so far if you wanted to say that.
We're going to talk some basketball. We're going to show you our diversity a bit with our sports portfolio. I will tell you, Tim Donnie was a real thing in the NBA. Like, there was problems. There is problems with human error.
We just saw Terry Rozier. He's under investigation now for gambling on his own games.
I knew that would be a good transition. So you got Terry Rozier, you have Pete Rose in baseball. I'm not saying this stuff doesn't happen. I'm saying when it does happen, you have to have a response. And like other people saying, like, for example, the Rams were going to win the Super Bowl because the Red Cross and those people are gone. No. Like, if you want the receipts and you want the proof of conspiracies, you have to stand by it. Like, why didn't they win if it was rigged, So that's what bothers me about it. Like, not that the problem happened. And I actually think gambling has a big thing to do with that. Like, sports betting, interest in fans. Like, we put real money on the line, Donnie. So these leagues owe it to us, and they owe it to their pocketbooks for our viewership to get it right. And I think we have a lot to do with the Terry Rozier situation, to be honest with you. I think.
Well, here's the thing: listen, Terry Rozier, I don't love the guy. I never loved him as a player, but if you were gonna jack up, I'm assuming he was just jacking up shots to try to hit his overs in the ending games and stuff. But if you were gonna do it, you could have at least just said it publicly, and then no one would have cared.
No, people would have still cared, Donnie. People would have still cared. Because now the rumor is that he was manipulating unders as well.
Oh, see, when you get into the unders, then it's a problem.
Yeah, like his some women he had associated with, like whether that be romantically or how long their relationship was, I'm not sure. But she said that she has proof of it, so apparently she has some kind of video proof or audio proof or something. And I feel bad because like one of the biggest touts in the DFS landscape was joking about having some inside information on a Heats game, right? He's like, I had some inside information, probably talking about an intern or a friend, or maybe he knew somebody within the organization. But it just so happened he made this joke, Donnie, the week before this alleged scandal was to happen. So now
it's tracked back to, I think it was in 21 when it was happening. So he wasn't with Miami at that point, to be fair. Not to defend the guy. I'm sure he's guilty of it, but he's guilty of something. But I will say that like DFS doesn't get enough credit, I think, for snuffing out enough of these incidents. We'd always talk about responsible gaming and having a good bankroll. I do think this is a large part of it that deserves some credit. Like, we hold these players accountable now. Sometimes too much.
Yeah, because it can get gross. The way some people get mad at like their parlays.
Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he got death threats.
I will say he had worse than death threats. I'm not going to say what he had on air, but it won't be hard to find.
Yeah, but the fact that people are that crude doesn't surprise me. But the mass amount, like, I do think the only way to stop that kind of stuff is to call it out, like to put a light on it and say, like, is this what we want to be remembered for? Because I do think there's a lot of good that comes of gambling. And this is one of them. Like, I truly believe, and you can disagree with me, without gambling, we would not have the spotlight on Terry Rozier. But do you think it speaks to a gambling issue, speaking of like responsible gaming? Because this guy made millions of dollars on it, and he was still betting for what? Manipulating? Like,
Terry made a lot of money because I remember when he left my Celtics and he got paid from Charlotte. That was a huge contract at the time.
I mean, just conservatively, we can say millions just to put a number on it. Like, and I know
I think it was like he's made over $100 million, I think, in his career by now.
Yeah, I would say that's correct. I know we're casuals and we're hardworking blue collar people, so whenever we think of $1 million, there's a different level of perception. But still, like, you have this built-in bankroll, this kind of management style, and you're going to wager for, like, what is?
Well, it's not like Michael Porter's brother, where he was,
Exactly.
end of the rotation. This is a guy, like, he's gotten his money. He's still in rotational minutes. And
not even like in rotation with Porter. I mean, he was in the G League. Like, you could say, like, okay, I understand you're on the fringe of the NBA. So, like, while you have the influence to affect things, you're going to take your back. Like, I don't agree with that. I think it's totally selfish and it a greed move. But Terry Rozier just seems like maybe there's a psychological, emotional pull beyond money because, like, he's already made money. But we see that a lot of times with money. When money becomes more of a value than actually the dollars and cents. But I wanted to show this lineup that we got on the screen here because we preach being transparent. If you go back to watch the best ball, you can do that if you want to. Like and subscribe, always give us support. Like, I do think there's a lot of good nugget in that video, even though it was a couple months ago. You can go back and listen to a lot
of season takes, like what we thought was going to happen this season.
Yeah. And one of them being that we thought it was a total mistake that Luka Doncic fell that far in the draft.
Yeah, and he had about 3 or 4. I
think 4, because I know LeBron went before him. And that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Luka, I mean, you could scroll up to the guards, but you could see clearly we were pretty high on the Rockets, which we were right about. Maybe Jabari Smith isn't scoring much because of injuries and stuff, but we were right about the Rockets.
Yeah. I still think getting Mitchell was a steal. I think he will be the one who carries the team. The Cavaliers have been just fantastic.
Yeah, the Cavs have been great. I know we took a shot on 2 different Warriors, 2 different guards, because we were trying to find somebody who would fill the Klay Thompson role, which Golden State actively is looking for that guy. He just wasn't on the roster. So
he wasn't. And shout out to Guff, who's not here with us today. He has some personal things to attend to. But I do want to shout out, he was big on Mathurin. He was huge on Mathurin, and Matherin's obviously done more than, like, he's definitely paid off his value ADP-wise.
I do love Benedict Mathurin. He's one of my favorite young players.
That was a great steal because, we did not get our Pogo minutes. I mean, I think we knew our guards were going to be top-heavy, like you said, Luka and Mitchell, but I think we expected more from Pogo. Monk, I can't say I expected more of, but Mathurin's production is quite impressive. I guess the one thing we did, and then we'll just go by tiers because it makes the most sense here. The one mistake, I guess, would be just having Terrence Mann, but I like Terrence Mann. I thought the potential was there. We're wrong on it, and I can eat it, because sometimes you got to eat the shit to get the reward. We got to, like, think of it like digging. Like, this was a dirty play for us, Donnie. Shame on us, but we got to dig to get to the gold.
Well, to be fair, Terrence Mann, the talent's there, I think. I mean, I thought he would have to take a jump.
What he would do.
Like, no Kawhi, still.
Yeah.
James Harden just kind of turned back the clock 5-6 years and turned into James Harden again. And he's sucking up all the offensive production. There isn't a spot left for Terrence Mann, which is okay.
I don't expect people to know this, Donnie, but they should. We basically do these conference calls that we make live streams because they're just easy for us to do. I mean, I enjoy talking to the 3 of you guys anyways. One thing you can do and go back and watch is when I like the guy, I don't like to give up on him. I was playing Julio Jones for last year. Like, I'm
With
like,
Philly. You did play with Philly in a game before.
like once the talent's there, the talent never leaves. Like
I believe he won you 1 week too, even
he did.
on the
did.
play.
That's what I mean. Is like, who knows? Maybe Terrence Mann is like the Chase Brown of best ball for NBA this year, where it's like the first like month of the season he looks terrible. Because remember, Chase Brown, I mean, he was a little bit more productive than zero, but he was not getting very much run. You know, Zach Moss was there, and people were like, well, if you're split with Zach Moss, you're not ready. And then by the end of the season, Chase Brown was the guy you needed, you know. There's going to be opportunities like that in NBA. Now, I don't know if we have one of those guys on our roster, but there's going to be those chances.
The Luka injury is just so unfortunate.
Yeah.
And you know what? Looking back on it, and we don't like to predict it, and at 4 it was too much value either way. You're taking Luka Doncic at 4.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, Luka, who hasn't been supremely healthy, isn't in great shape after a finals run, which he was hobbled through the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the season, not being super available makes sense. And it's just one of those things in hindsight. But again, no matter what, you're taking Luka at 4. Everyone would have done it. Almost everyone took him at 3 and 2.
We got Luka at 5.
Okay, 5. Well, that's even more ridiculous.
And none of those picks were wrong, but I know we were talking about it. And again, that's the beautiful thing about having the receipts, like having a video receipt where you can say, like, what did Logan think about this? What did Don think? Like, I thought taking LeBron ahead of him was a mistake. I don't think it was so egregiously a mistake, but it was a mistake. But no one before that I would have taken Luka for. Like, I would have always taken Joker, you know.
Oh, yeah, I would have taken Joker. We'd have a conversation about Wemby.
We would. And I think
at that time, we would have had a conversation.
I would have been probably the lowest on him, transparently, and I probably would have lost because
I probably would have been the highest on him, but Gov would have split the difference because we know what Luka was going to be next year, whereas we didn't know what jump Wemby would make. We knew the jump he could make, and he did make, but at the time, you couldn't guarantee it, that jump.
That's correct. And right now, everything is really close, you know, and the NBA is such a longer season. I kind of like being able to do this and go through. But so of all the guards we have on our team and all the underperformers, we do think it's Terrence Mann, the one that's going to make the largest jump. If we check this out in a month from now, Donnie, Terrence Mann makes the biggest jump, right?
He has the potential to make the biggest jump. I don't even know if he makes it in the lineup, really.
I mean,
what he's been giving, he's 6 points per game. I thought he'd be at least a 12-point per game guy.
Yeah.
I am shocked that he's, especially without Kawhi. If you told me Kawhi was back first 2 weeks and Terrence Mann didn't make a jump, okay, fine. But not only has he not made a jump, he's significantly regressed as a player.
Now, we both have the NBA League Pass. I'm way more plugged in than most people, so don't misquote me here. I haven't been watching as much as I wanted to watch so far, but he hasn't really been in the rotation either, right? Like, he's been outside of it. Obviously, zero, you could say so, but, like, is there any signs of, like, because, like you mentioned off the top, Leonard being out, you would think he would have got more minutes or more run, but he hasn't.
I'd have to check his minutes per game, but I know he's played in 35 games.
Mm-hmm. I will say the positive, kind of, as we go to wing now, the positive of the injuries that obviously turned was we lost Brandon Miller in the beginning of the season, kind of like Luka Doncic. He's starting to come on. He's at least overcome some of that early season stuff. So, like, we do have some positive optimism from our roster.
By the way, Terrence Mann is averaging 20 minutes per game in 35 games played. So he's playing. I mean, he's there.
When he plays, he's there, yeah.
He just doesn't do anything with the minutes.
Yeah. Anyone from the wings that you want to talk about? I think our wings are like most consistent. Like, just looking at it, like, no one flashes, but everyone's doing something.
And that's what we drafted him for, because we thought our guards would carry us, and then our wings would just have to be okay.
Which, to be fair, Donnie, you get Mitchell and Luka, and actually Mitchell has exceeded, I would say, expectations. Maybe it hurts more Just to go back to
I don't think he exceeded. This is kind of like this week has been a very good week for him. But I think you kind of expect this from Donovan Mitchell. He's one of the best scorers in the NBA. He's going to get you points.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could argue though, Donnie, we expected the Cavs to be worse, so we expected Mitchell to have more output, and so maybe because they're better and more balanced than I thought.
Well, give credit to Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah,
this year, and he's one of my favorite players, and I actually prefer it this way. Just watching him, I think he was out of these tall, big guys that can shoot and are lanky. I would say he was the first of that bunch before Wemby and who was in Chet, Evan Mobley. He's being allowed to run the ball a lot more and actually play from outside. He looks a lot better right now. And I actually like seeing that because Mobley's talent was always there, and last year he wasn't allowed to show it. I forget, was it Bickerstaff that was the coach last year for the Cavs? Kenny Atkinson's done a really, really good job at really unleashing Evan Mobley back to what we saw in his rookie season.
I would agree with that. And we like Mobley. I think I actually know that Gov is quite a fan of almost everything that Cavs do. I think last year when the Magic was playing the Cavs, it was hard for Gov because he likes a lot of Cavs. So you could argue we wanted Mobley. I haven't gone back and listened to it, but I would bet if we went back and listened to that live stream, we would have taken Mobley had we had the opportunity.
But from our guys, like Mikal, I think I remember we were having a conversation about Mikal, and we were like, what is his role going to be in this offense and how well it would click. And we took the shot at him, and he has his weeks. He has his great games for sure. Brandon Miller,
it's probably Bridges probably is the guy that's keeping us afloat. Like if you look at the points he's produced at that branch for us, like he is exceeding.
Yeah, Jabari Smith, I'm disappointed in, to be honest. I wanted Jabari Smith to make a bigger jump.
I thought he would. I think we have all rights to be disappointed in him. I think he should have. And maybe this is just one of the things we're wrong about. Like I said earlier, when I see talent, sometimes I don't like to give up on it. Maybe I should have given up on Smith. I don't think
this is year 3 for him.
Yeah.
Usually year 3, if you're gonna make the jump, you would have made the jump by now. And he just hasn't.
Yeah.
Like the year 3 is the year where I expect you've got to do something to warrant that next big deal. If you want to make that $35 million a year at least, you got to be better than this. And I thought he would be. Speaking
of jumps, though, and people just being available for us, that's the one thing I liked about Bridges was that he was just going to get a lot of minutes. I think we have to be very proud to get this from the wing. Like he might have saved this team, to be completely honest. So I don't know who was high on him. I don't know what you expected from him. I just expected minutes, and he's exceeded my expectation. But you're right, Jabari has definitely done the opposite.
Like I wanted Jabari to at least give me, 20 a game by now.
Yeah.
And he's honestly only at 11 points per game. I didn't even know it was that bad because I still watch him and I like the talent. I like what I see, and I watched a lot of his games as a coach. Udoka, if you have it, he's going to get it out of you. And that's if Udoka's not getting it out of Jabari Smith, then maybe it's time to move on in a fantasy perspective from Jabari Smith. Not as a player, but in the fantasy world.
Well, hopefully, he has a late surge. Like we said earlier, someone is going to have a late surge, but it might be too late. I mean, we're dropped all the way to 9 right now. We're still within striking distance of a lot of teams, but at this point, you kind of have a skeleton of your team, and you know what they need to do. One of those guys we also expected more from was Herb Jones. I know the Pelicans have been injured a lot. A guy above him, actually, Aaron Gordon, if you want to talk about him, Donnie as well. They've had a lot of injuries. That team's kind of been coasting because they're so good, and they're just the Nuggets are expected to be a playoff team. So that's where we are there. But Herb Jones, I thought, was going to make more of a jump. And
I didn't know if Perv was going to make a jump. Like, I expected him to, some weeks get you 500 points. If someone gets hurt, he'll keep you afloat. But I didn't expect him to make the roster much.
See, I think me and you were very different because I thought he had like not a defensive player of the year, but like a defensive.
Defensive team type guy.
Yeah, like first team all defense, like a real threat. Like a playoff team that like you're facing Herb Jones, like a Tayshaun Prince sort of impact on a really good championship level team is kind of what I expected from him. We haven't got it.
Actually, I forgot. I don't remember if Terrence Mann. No, he wasn't. The Clippers did make a trade, which I don't know how much it will do for them. It's a
Maybe
little
you don't get Terrence Mann. Is that what you're saying?
No, Terrence Mann stayed, but I thought he might have been a part of the deal. The Clippers finally got rid of PJ Tucker. Thank God. And Mo Bamba. And Mo Bamba's going to the Jazz, but they get Eubanks and Patty Mills with a pick.
Is that just one of those cash consideration deals? That's what it sounds like to me.
They get a lot of salary, but now they have another big in their rotation potentially with Eubanks. Patty Mills, I guess, is a guy that he's a guy that could steal Terrence Mann minutes at this rate.
He's a guy that me and you know because we're both NBA fans, but he's not a guy anymore.
Well, he could steal Terrence Mann's minutes if he keeps playing the way he's playing.
He could. And that's tells you where we are in this season. But speaking of bigs, I think, like, from what I do remember about this draft, Donnie, is we were most split on bigs because every time we looked at the bigs draft board, we loved the names. Sengun. And I know.
We all were in love with Sengun. I remember that. We all wanted Sengun.
And I think it was Gov who was like, well, look, how many bigs are you going to play? But then as the draft went on, we just kept getting better and better bigs available. Like, it just felt like bigs were just falling to us. And I know Gov's a big fan of Yoko Portal. And so the moment Portal was available, I knew Gov would break his one big. Because Gov kind of said, like, let's just go after one, big guy. Hope it's Jokic. Hope it's Wembanyama. And then,
well, if we got one of the top guys, that's what would have happened. But because we had to settle for Sengun in the third or fourth round,
sure,
we had to get a second guy that we trusted, and that ended up being Jakob just because. Well, Jakob and Wendell Carter, I felt like Carter. I don't know how well Carter's played this season. I have watched like no Magic basketball because.
Well, better than Terrence Mann, but not much. Like very little. And you would have thought like they were without Pablo for a while, and but that team had stayed together.
Both the Wagners have been out.
Wagner was so you would have thought the big minutes would have opened up, and they just went to a bunch of young guys like Silva, who just turned out to be really good and productive players. So like that team is just deep. It reminds me of kind of a young Cavaliers team and how deep it is. Like there's just guys producing on that team, from 1 to 12. It's pretty impressive.
Well, my problem with the Magic, specifically the way they're doing the rotation and everything, is, I love a lot of the guys. They have like 12 guys that are really, really decent NBA rotational guys. Mm-hmm. And Paulo, of course, is special. And I love Franz, honestly. But I don't see a recipe to win with them. Like, I don't see the future of winning. I think you have to get off some. Like, you have too much of the okay and not enough of the good. That's where I'm at with the Magic.
Yeah, I think that's right. I was just pulling up Sengun's numbers. He got off to a slow start because I'm the one who checks this the most. Like I just love drafting a team, having a portfolio, and then checking it. I really do like that. Like I'm like a coach. I like to check on my guys, make sure everyone's good, make sure the rotations are good. I love that management kind of style. Gov is the complete opposite. He was asking about this though. Like it's funny because he doesn't care about NFL basketball at all, Donnie. He did ask slightly about NBA. So it is funny. Maybe he will go back and listen to this. Sengun, though, was off to a slow start to begin the year, and now he's starting to form into that all-star level that I thought. Because I thought this guy would be taking the biggest jump. Like if you had me name the top 3 producers on our team, I would have named Luka, Donovan Mitchell, and Segun. And finally, we're starting to see it. So this actually gives me hope.
I love Sengun. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, this gives me hope that we might actually be able to advance. We only have to get to first or second place, and we'll advance to the playoffs. Like I say, Sengun got off to such a slow start. Maybe that's why. Miller was hurt. Anyone else you want to mention on this team?
On the team specifically, who? Well, we haven't spoke about him, and this is a player I've watched literally not one Bulls game this season, so I don't know how he's playing statistically. But Ayo Dosunmu, or is that how you said? I think it's Ayo Dosunmu.
I think it's a similar, yeah.
I haven't heard anything about him this year. And I was probably the highest. Oh, he's averaging 12 a game. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, he's averaging 12, 3, 5, and almost a steal. Actually, I'm wrong.
Yeah, he's splitting minutes with Cody White, but now that Lonzo Ball's back in the rotation, we don't know how that will pan out throughout the year. But
Ball probably gets traded.
It could be. It definitely could be. So maybe that cuts into it for now, because they do have a very guard-heavy, dominant roster at the moment. Vooch being their only real big, and then they have kind of what I would consider kind of a log jam at guard.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not as bad as the Magic's guard jam there.
Yeah.
But, like, Lonzo, I will say, considering how bad his injury was and how long he was out, I'm impressed with how good he's been defensively. Specifically, like, he's always been a good defender, but coming back and still having that defensive level. His scoring's a little bit off, especially interior. His 3-point shooting's down as well. But I think he can come back. Like, you watch him play, and I think he still has what he gave the Bulls when he first got there.
Right. I don't think it's a Ben Simmons kind of situation where we're always hoping for it, or because he has the name, you watch it. Like, Lonzo has good, and I think the Bulls have they deserve some credit from an organizational standpoint, because they have managed it very well. They haven't, trotted him out there kind of as a celebratory tool, but they've also allowed him to grow into his game. I feel like injury management from a team perspective can be botched quite often, Donnie, where it's well, we don't know what to do with this guy, so we're just going to give him a ton of minutes, or we'll give him such a small amount of minutes you don't really see what he can do. I feel like they've really managed his comeback really well.
I think so, but the only thing that worries me about him a little bit is I remember when Gordon Hayward got injured and broke his leg like he did, and the Celtics babied him through it, and let him, not babied because he needed to get brought through slowly, of course, but lack of better term, kind of babied him through it, and then he came back and he wasn't himself. So, but you were going to keep giving him minutes because you could see that it had potential coming back, and it just never did. But the Celtics kept on playing him like he was Gordon Hayward, and it clearly ruptured that locker room. Not that the Bulls locker room could be ruptured. I mean, they suck, but they're going to get rid of everyone soon anyway. But I just don't want to see that happen with Lonzo. If he is, if come next year he's still not himself, maybe it's time to start dialing it back on that production side of it. He's still, honestly, it's over a steal and a half a game. He's still playing really well. I'm impressed with him. He's done everything I need him to in his first run.
Donnie, if we look back at this in a month from now or 2 months from now, because Guff really does not, he hates the best ball portfolio. So we'll have to probably have another show where he's not on the show to be able to do this. But if we went back and looked at it in a month from now, where do you think this team would be?
All depends on Luka. All depends on if Luka's back and is Luka.
So we need Luka to come back basically and be all-star level, MVP level.
We need Luka to come back and average 30 for the rest of the season, basically. Yeah. That's what we drafted him to do. You draft Luka, you want him to be, 28, 9, and 9.
I do think this team has potential because Brandon Miller could get back and look all right. We have Terrence Mann could finally get some minutes, maybe, hopefully, probably not. But I mean, like I mentioned it, Matherin's been producing more than I would have thought. Monk, Goff kind of likes these boring guys that everyone forgets about in these small markets, whether it be a Yoko Portal. He was high on Monk. I will say he's almost got 800 points, so like he is producing on his team. Those kind of guys have done their job. We haven't had too many misses, but our superstars.
Pods, I think, was the worst of the worst missed. If you look at the whole lineup, Pods just, and it wasn't even a miss, more so of someone had to give Clay's production, and Pods made sense to take a shot on him.
Yeah, it made sense, but we probably drafted him because I do think that we expected more safety from him. Like it was an upside chance, but we're like, well, he'll be in the rotation.
He was supposed to get minutes.
Right.
Going into the season, the way the Warriors have been speaking about him, you thought he would be a guy at least getting like 25 minutes a game, and he is losing minutes continuously.
And that's the thing is like, I thought Terrence Mann was like this high upside guy. Like if he gets minutes, if he gets the opportunity, but we already thought Pods already had that chance, like where like he's in good with Steve Kerr, he knows the rotate, like Draymond Green's minutes will reduce. Maybe they'll play him as a 4 or something. Like I thought all these things, and it just hasn't happened. Any other quick hitters? Because we wanted to kind of give people not some time off of the NFL, but like the NFL is going to have plenty of time to shine. Is there any other quick hitters, whether it be gambling related, DFS related, NBA, even football, if you got to take anything like that?
No, just Jason Tatum's game winner last night. Celtics still the favorite to win the championship. Screw the Cavs. Thunder ain't got it.
You got all you take. People do want to know. And maybe this will be a good comment section. Kind of, what have you looked at Showdown yet?
For Super Bowl?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Okay, because I knew that about you.
I'm getting the itch, though. I will say it's Saturday. I want to look, but I'm holding myself.
I know you well enough. When Donnie says he's going to do something, he's a lot like me. We might not do things professional, Donnie. We might be amateur still. Like I said, this was supposed to be just a call with my friend that we turned into a podcast because it just made so much sense to see if we could do it. But when you say you're going to do something, Donnie, you do it. Is there anyone, because you don't know pricing yet, is there anyone you're like, well, I think for sure I'm going to get him in. Are you going to go back to Juju? Anything like that, just to give people the taste?
I don't know what his price is. If Juju's still like astronomically cheap, he will be there.
Okay. I won't tell you. I do know, but I won't.
There's a couple guys like if we're in personal, I probably will do about 5-ish worth of lineups. I'll go 3 entry match, a single entry, and maybe something else just for fun. And I could see myself taking a shot in the dark and hoping for a Noah Gray captain touchdown, kind of like the use check play. But I expect a lot of Barkley. A lot of Barkley stuff.
A lot of Barkley, yeah. I would agree with that. Make sure Barkley's in your lineup in some facet, whether that be flex, whether that be captain. I don't care. I think he has to be in there. Donnie, I would say quickly, though, because you remind me of it. We always talk about bankroll management. Like, we kind of cater to the small DFS player, the guy who doesn't have a huge amount of money to dedicate to it. And so he's got to really be smart about his decisions. The lineup that he builds has to matter, whether that be game theory, different ways to construct it. This week is like a great week for free contests. But I believe the Super Bowl always has the biggest prize pools available. You can do, I think there's like 3 or 4 lineups for free. So you can try different variations too. It's not all, all the free money is on one contest. But there is a huge free contest that doesn't usually happen. I think it's about $30,000 more than it normally is.
Just out of curiosity, is there a Campbell's lineup this Super Bowl or no? Where it's the 2 times points instead of the 1.5 captain?
I do not believe so. I believe it's normal Showdown, but it is, I think, brought on by Buffalo Wild Wings, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like $30,000 more than it usually is. And then there's other free contests as well. So take advantage of all those. There's the free pools. Like maybe you just want to recreationally bet, and that's fine too. But whatever your lane is, find it this week. This is one of the weeks where if you do like kind of building fun free lineups, this is a week where you got to hit. And maybe you're like Donnie, you don't check it right away, but be mindful and get into those contests. Don't throw away free money. With that being said, though, I think we're pretty much wrapped up here. I'm glad we could do this, Donnie. It shows our NBA stripes, but like I said, it's a work in progress. We do want to cover the NBA in some way. We just got to make it make sense because we don't want to do like a whole 2-hour podcast on the NBA and break down each team and give you in depth and be like, oh yeah, everyone you just talked about is ruled out, and now the rotations are completely different. And that show dies on the vine. So. We'll find a way to cover some NBA. I have some ideas, but we'll get out of here with this. Good afternoon, guys. Good morning. Good night.
Have a good weekend.
See you.